sitting in a room full of people. Everyone's laughing, talking, connecting, and all you can think is, when can I leave? Not because you're shy, not because you're anxious, but because every second you're there, you're playing a role. Smiling when you don't feel like it, laughing at jokes that aren't funny, nodding along to conversations you don't care about. Your face says, I'm having a great time, but your mind is counting down the minutes until you can be alone again. And when you finally get home, when you finally close the door behind you, the relief is so intense it almost feels physical, like you've been holding your breath for hours and you can finally exhale. If that's you, if you've ever felt more exhausted after being with people than before, if you've ever chosen solitude over connection and felt relieved instead of lonely, then you already know what I'm about to talk about. You're not broken. You're not antisocial. You're something else entirely. You know this feeling if you've ever been called intimidating when all you were doing was being quiet. If you've ever had someone say, "Why are you so distant?" and you didn't know how to explain that distance feels safer than closeness. You know this if you've ever felt guilty for canceling plans. But the moment you sent that text, you felt nothing but relief. If you've ever looked at your phone, seen a notification, and thought, "I don't have the energy for this right now." You know this if you've ever had a friend say, "You're so hard to get to know," and you wanted to tell them, it's not that you don't want to be known. It's that being known requires you to lower walls that took years to build. You know this if you've ever felt more comfortable talking to a stranger online than to someone sitting across from you at dinner. Because with strangers, there's no history to manage, no expectations to meet, no emotional labor required. And maybe, just maybe, you've ever thought to yourself, maybe I just hate people. But here's the truth, nobody tells you. You don't hate people. You hate what being around people costs you. The energy, the performance, the constant negotiation between who you are and who you're expected to be. And once you understand why that is, everything changes. Psychologists have a name for this. They call it social anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure from social interaction. But that term makes it sound like a disorder, like there's something fundamentally wrong with you. There isn't. What's actually happening is this. Your nervous system learned early on that people are unpredictable, and unpredictability equals danger. So your brain did what brains do, it adapted. It built walls. It created distance. It made solitude feel safer than connection. And now, years later, those walls are still standing. Not because you're cold or heartless, but because they once kept you safe. The problem is, your brain doesn't always know the difference between then and now. It's still operating from old programming, still protecting you from dangers that may no longer exist. This is UNFELT, where we explore the psychology of what you feel but can't name. So let's go deeper. Let's figure out why you feel this way, where it started, how it shows up in your life now, and most importantly, whether it has to stay this way forever. Most people who feel this way didn't start out hating people. They started out the way all kids do, open, trusting, eager to connect. But then something happened. Maybe you grew up in a house where your parents' moods were unpredictable, where you never knew if you'd be hugged or yelled at for the same behavior. So you learned to read the room before you entered it. You learned to scan faces for danger signs. Is mom's jaw tight? Better stay quiet. Is dad's voice a little too loud? Better disappear. You learned that survival meant staying small, staying quiet, staying invisible. You became hypervigilant, not by choice, but by necessity. Or maybe your family wasn't chaotic, they were cold. Emotions weren't discussed. Vulnerability was weakness. Crying made you dramatic. Needing comfort made you needy. You learned that the safest thing to do was take care of yourself. That asking for help meant being a burden. That expressing your needs meant being too much. Either way, you absorbed the same core message. People are safest when kept at a distance. Psychologist Donald Winnicott called this the false self. It's the version of you that learned to perform, to please, and to pretend, because the real you didn't feel safe enough to exist. In his work on childhood development, he explained that children develop this false self as a defense mechanism when their authentic emotions are repeatedly invalidated or dismissed. And here's the devastating part. The longer you perform, the harder it is to remember who you actually are underneath. By the time you reach adulthood, being around people doesn't just drain you, it erases you, because every interaction requires you to abandon yourself a little bit more. So, what does this look like in your life today? Here are 7 ways this pattern manifests in adulthood. 1. You rehearse conversations before they happen, even simple ones. What if they ask me this? What will I say? How should I respond? You script entire interactions in your head before they occur. You've spent so much energy preparing for interactions that by the time they happen, you're already exhausted. And if the conversation goes off script, panic. 2. Small talk feels like psychological torture. Not because you're intellectual or think you're better than others, but because you're experiencing a full emotional symphony inside: anxiety, hypervigilance, self-monitoring, emotional suppression, and someone's asking you about the weather. The disconnect between your inner world and their outer questions feels unbridgeable. 3. You experience intense social hangovers. After being around people, even people you genuinely like, you need days to recover. You need silence. You need solitude. You need space to process everything you absorbed. You need to remember who you are when no one's watching. And during that recovery period, the thought of seeing anyone else feels impossible. 4. You have an incredibly small circle. Not because you're picky, judgmental, or think you're too good for others, but because you can only let people in when you trust they won't force you to perform. With those rare few people, you're completely different. Funny, open, vulnerable, real. With everyone else, you're behind glass. Visible, but untouchable. 5. You feel guilty when you need alone time. You've internalized the message that needing space makes you difficult. That choosing solitude over socializing makes you antisocial. So even when you're alone and finally peaceful, there's this nagging guilt. Why can't I just be normal? Why can't I enjoy this like everyone else? 6. You've been called cold, distant, or intimidating. But you're not trying to be any of those things. You're just protecting the parts of yourself that have been misunderstood too many times. You've learned that being open means being vulnerable, and being vulnerable means getting hurt. 7. You overthink every social interaction after it happens. Did I say the right thing? Did I come across weird? Did they think I was rude? You replay conversations in your head for hours, sometimes days, analyzing every word, every pause, every facial expression. Which one of these hit hardest for you? Drop a number in the comments, 1 through 7. You don't have to explain if you don't want to. Just the number. Let's see how many of us are carrying the same weight. Now here's where it gets interesting. This isn't just psychological, it's neurobiological. People who feel drained by social interaction often have what researchers call a highly sensitive nervous system. Their amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, is more reactive than average. Their insula, the region that processes emotional awareness, is more active, which means they don't just notice other people's emotions. They absorb them. When someone in the room is anxious, your body registers that anxiety as if it were your own. When someone is frustrated, your nervous system responds to that frustration, even when nothing is said out loud. This is called emotional contagion, and for highly sensitive people, it's not optional. They can't turn it off. Now add to that a hyperactive prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and social behavior. In people who experienced chronic stress or emotional neglect during childhood, the prefrontal cortex often develops differently. It becomes constantly active, always analyzing, predicting, and preparing for worst-case scenarios. So when you walk into a social situation, your brain isn't just processing what's happening now. It's processing what could happen, what might go wrong, what you'll need to do to manage everyone else's emotions while suppressing your own. No wonder you're exhausted before the conversation even starts. But here's the hopeful part. Your brain has something called neuroplasticity, the ability to form new neural pathways and rewire itself based on new experiences. Which means even if your nervous system learned early on that people equal danger, it can learn something new. It can learn that not every interaction is a threat, that not every silence needs to be filled, that not every person will demand the performance. But that relearning takes time, safety, and the right people. Let's be clear about something. Healing doesn't mean you're suddenly going to love crowds. It doesn't mean you'll stop needing alone time to recharge. It doesn't mean you'll magically become extroverted. Healing doesn't mean changing your fundamental nature. Healing means this: You stop apologizing for who you are. You stop forcing yourself into situations that drain you just to prove you're normal. You start setting boundaries without drowning in guilt. And you find people, even if it's just one or two, who don't require you to perform. The goal isn't to become someone you're not. The goal is to stop punishing yourself for being exactly who you are. So, how do you actually get there? Here are 5 practices that can help you move from self-protection to self-acceptance. 1. Learn to identify your nervous system states. What it is. This is based on polyvagal theory, developed by Dr. Stephen Porges, which teaches that your nervous system operates in 3 main states: safe and social, fight or flight, and shutdown. Why it matters. When you can name which state you're in, you can respond to it instead of being controlled by it. How to do it. Throughout the day, pause and ask yourself, am I feeling safe right now? Activated? Numb? Or disconnected? Notice where you feel it in your body. Chest tight and heart racing? That's activation, fight or flight. Feeling completely numb or disconnected from your body? That's shutdown. Breathing easy and present? That's the safe and social state. What to expect? This won't fix anything immediately, but it will give you information, and information is power. 2. Practice microdosing social interaction. What it is. Instead of forcing yourself into long, overwhelming social situations, start with small, low-stakes, time-limited interactions. Why it matters. Your nervous system needs evidence that people can be safe before it will let its guard down. How to do it. Set a timer for 20 or 30 minutes at a social event. Then give yourself full permission to leave without guilt or explanation. Have coffee with one friend instead of attending a group dinner. Say no to things that feel like too much, and don't over-explain your reasons. What to expect. You'll still feel drained sometimes, but you'll also start to notice which specific people and environments feel safer than others. 3. Reparent your inner critic. What it is, that harsh voice in your head saying, why can't you just be normal? What's wrong with you? That's not your authentic voice. That's an internalized message from your past. Why it matters. You cannot heal in an environment of constant self-judgment and shame. How to do it. When you notice the critic, pause and ask yourself, whose voice is this? Where did I first hear this message? Then consciously respond to yourself the way you would respond to a close friend going through the same thing. Instead of, why can't you just be normal like everyone else? Try, you're doing the best you can with the nervous system you have. What to expect. This will feel incredibly awkward and fake at first. Do it anyway. Over time, it becomes more natural. 4. Journal with radical, unfiltered honesty. What it is, writing down what you actually feel, not what you think you should feel or what sounds acceptable. Why it matters. You've spent so long managing other people's emotions that you've completely lost touch with your own. How to do it. Set a timer for 10 minutes and write without stopping, without censoring, without worrying about grammar or sounding good. Prompts to try. What I wish people understood about me is, the last time I felt truly safe with another person was, if I didn't have to perform or pretend, I would. The thing I'm most afraid people will discover about me is, what to expect. You'll uncover patterns and beliefs you didn't even know were there. Some of it will be uncomfortable. That's how you know it's working. 5. Find your people slowly and intentionally. What it is, accepting that not everyone will understand you, and that's completely okay. You're looking for the rare few who do. Why it matters? Connection heals, but only the right kind of connection with the right people. How to do it? Look for people who are genuinely comfortable with silence and don't feel the need to fill every pause. Who don't take your need for space personally or make you feel guilty for it. Who value emotional depth over surface-level pleasantries. Who let you be quiet without constantly asking, what's wrong? Are you okay? What to expect? These people are incredibly rare, but they exist, and when you find even one, everything changes. Here's what healing actually looks like when it starts to take hold. You begin to notice that certain interactions don't drain you the way they used to. You stop apologizing every time you need space or alone time. You stop forcing yourself into situations that feel fundamentally wrong just to prove something to yourself or others. You realize that the right people, the ones who truly see you, don't make you feel like you're too much or not enough. They make you feel like you're exactly right just as you are. And slowly, gradually, the world feels less like a hostile place you have to constantly survive, and more like a place where you can actually exist. Not loudly, not performativity, not pretending, but authentically as yourself. If you could go back and tell your younger self one thing about this journey, what would it be? Share it in the comments below. Someone who's exactly where you were 5 years ago desperately needs to hear it. So let's come full circle back to where we started. That bone-deep exhaustion you feel around people, it's not hatred, it's self-protection. You don't actually hate people. You hate the performance they unknowingly demand, the masks you've learned to wear, the endless roles you've been forced to play just to feel acceptable. The psychologist Carl Jung once wrote something that captures this perfectly. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And he was absolutely right. Because truly accepting yourself means accepting that you're fundamentally different from most people, that you need more space, more silence, more depth than others seem to, that you feel and notice things most people don't even register. And once you fully accept that truth about yourself, you stop exhausting yourself trying to be someone you're not. You're not broken. You're not cold or unfeeling. You're not too much or not enough. You're someone whose nervous system learned to survive by creating distance. And now you get to teach it something completely new. Not that all people are safe, but that you are safe, even in the presence of others. If this video resonated with you on any level, you're in exactly the right place. This is Unfelt, where we go deep into the emotions you feel every day but can never quite name. Subscribe if you want more psychology content that actually understands you. And tell me in the comments, what topic should I explore next? What emotion or pattern are you trying to understand right now? I read every single comment. Until next time, please, take care of that beautiful, complex heart of yours.